Hi, everybody. It's Mo Bunnell, your host here at Real Relationships, Real Revenue. I'm author of the Snowball System, and I've trained with my teams over 15,000 experts all over the world on sound, effective, efficient, and most importantly, I think, authentic business development techniques. And I'm joined today by Nathan Barry. He's CEO of ConvertKit. If you didn't listen or watch to the last two episodes, make sure you do that because his answers to my questions were fantastic. He gave his big idea on how we can grow our book of business, our relationships, and to stay consistent with those things over time so we can grow our career. Then in the episode, just one before this one, the last one, we talked about how to get more deals across the goal line. And in this one, I'm going to ask him a different angle of the theme. How do we, or what's his advice on how we grow our relationships, how we deepen and nurture relationships? And what's interesting about Nathan's perspective is how to do that at scale. Super cool stuff. Now, before we get into it, hey, if you want our latest thinking, complimentary training courses, our latest insight based on the current trends going on in the world, then head over to growbigplaybook.com, growbigplaybook.com. And not only do you get our ongoing guidance on how to build your book of business, grow your relationships, grow your career, but you also get an instant download. You can read it in like 8 minutes, and it'll give you 8 beliefs that are completely change your mind on what business development is, how you can do it authentically, and how you can have more fun bringing in more business and deepening relationships. So head over to growbigplaybook.com. You not only get that little new booklet, but you get our ongoing weekly newsletter with our latest thinking, tons of complimentary content that are going to help you succeed. All right, so here we go. Here's Nathan Barry, CEO of ConvertKit, specifically talking about deepening relationships. Hi, everybody. Welcome for our third episode with Nathan Barry, CEO of ConvertKit, my favorite product and service for scaling through email and how to add value to your clients. Now, if you didn't catch the last couple episodes, you want to go back and listen to those because I asked Nathan his biggest idea to help you grow your book of business, deepen your relationships, and enhance your career. We talked deep in the last episode about how to get more opportunities across the goal line. And in this one, the question's going to be, how do we deepen relationships with content using an email list? So there's your question. Run.
So when you're first meeting someone, right, you don't have much of a relationship. Maybe they have a reputation from who the introduction came from, or you already know them a bit in the industry, but it's really shallow. You each don't know that much about each other. And so what I like to do is take as much information about me as possible and put it out there in my email list. So I will even include things like trips that I've gone on, things that, like little details about my family, where I live, some of those things, because I want them to do business with me because of who I am as a person, in addition to the value that I can provide from them, right? And so, we talked about teach everything you know in a previous episode, and we have this other concept called work in public, of sharing the steps and the process in your journey so that they can connect with you. Like I always wonder when I'm hiring a service provider, is this just one person, or am I hiring a firm full of 50 people? And I don't know. And those questions make me a little bit more hesitant to make that hiring decision, because it's just things that I need to know. And a lot of people will, try to hide behind, if they're just one person, hide behind like the royal we, and put this out there and try to seem bigger than you are. And what I love is when people are really authentic and open and direct, and just tell the story of, hey, I've been running this business for 8 years. It's grown to this stage. It's still just me. These are some of the favorite types of clients I've worked with. Here are stories that I've learned. Any of those things that you can teach and share is going to help someone following along, feel like they can know and trust you more. And a lot of them making that sale or winning them as a client is just about building that trust. So that's the first thing. The second thing is really taking them on a journey where they're learning about you consistently over time while you're delivering value to them. And email courses are one of my favorite things for this. So basically the way that an email course works is if you sign up today, well, let's say, Mo, you and I both we're signing up for an email list, right? And it's for an accounting firm that we're going to hire. We're trying to learn more about our accounting practices. And so if I sign up today, then 2 days later, I'm going to get one email. A couple days after that, I'm going to get another email. And this is a series of emails that's timed to when I sign up. And now what happens is if you sign up a week later, you're going to get the same emails on the same cadence, but delayed by a week. It's scheduled to when you signed up versus something like a broadcast, which is an email to everyone on the same, like in the list at the same time. It all hits the inbox at the exact same time. So what that means is I, as the accounting firm or whoever, I can craft this experience for new subscribers where I could deliver a really valuable piece of content and a little bit of detail about our firm. Hey, we're a boutique 3-person accounting firm. We started in this, way back when. Here's a little bit of the story. And over time, I can just shape that and deliver more content and expertise. Now, as a blogger or a content creator, I do the same thing where I think, what is the best content that I've ever written? The stories or the articles that I'm most proud of. Like I wrote this one a year and a half ago titled The Ladders of Wealth Creation. And it's like this really long 4,000 or 5,000 word post. It's got illustrations. I put a ton of time into it. But the thing is, it's buried in the archives on my blog. I can't put it across the top spot on my blog forever, right? It's just got to drop down as it come out with new things. And so what the email course does is it lets me feature that and say, hey, everyone who joins my newsletter, I should make sure they read at least this piece of content. And so in the third email, the fourth email, right, that's going to be in there of like, hey, let me take you through this post, The Ladders of Wealth Creation. And I can make sure that over time, each person gets to know me on a set cadence, basically. And then by the time maybe we have a phone conversation, or by the time we talk about working together, you've already read all of my best content over the previous month or two, and you're going to know my way of doing business. And it's going to make you a better client. It's going to make me, a better service provider because we understand each other better, and we have this shared context. So those are a couple things. I like to tell stories. I like to share, more about the personal side, and I like to do it all in an automated way so I can build the system once that just keeps working for me.
Oh, and you just closed where I was going to go. So it's perfect segue. Build it once and it keeps working for you. And in the professional service and service-based world, folks aren't used to that. So it's like everything feels bespoke. Every speech is a new speech. Every client is the same conversation to some extent. And by automating things like you're talking about, you get leverage and you get scale. So that the hours you put in creating that system for client or prospect onboarding, now once you build it, you're done, set it and forget it, and that's going to serve you for a decade. So I absolutely love that. I want to have a follow-up question because I want to get your thoughts on this. So you gave a perfect example of the starting point that all our audience should hear. Like, here's how to build a sequence to start to nurture and grow trust with somebody that's interested in knowing you. Another way to do it, and I want to get your take on this, is to take a specific topic. In the last episode, you gave some great hints on discovering what topics are important to your audience. So folks, if you didn't hear that, go back and watch the last episode. But you gave great tips on learning what those are. Yeah, and subscribe and buy the book and all everything else.
Yes.
So when you learn what those are, let's say I'll give you a specific example. I focus on entrepreneurs and I file very technical medical device patents. Say I'm an attorney and that's my expertise. Well, I could tape a series of 3 or 4 videos that tell entrepreneurs these are the top things you need to know when you're thinking about building your whole company around intellectual property. And yeah, some of it's about the actual patent filing, but here's a whole bunch of other stuff you need to know. Let's say I taped 4 8-minute videos on that, and I build a sequence that when somebody signs up, those drip out over 4, 5, 6, 8 days, whatever you want. And then I built that. And then every time I meet somebody that might be a client, I can steer them to that. And they're developing a relationship with me without me even being there. So comment on the power of developing courses around a very specific issue clients or prospect face, building it once which is a little different than the get to know about me,
Right.
which was great you shared. But here we're talking about very specific content. So what are your 2 cents on that?
Yeah, I think it's really, really effective. A lot of where people struggle when building an audience is they have a lot of general interests, and so they talk about a wide range of things. And what happens is people usually are looking to solve a specific problem. Maybe it's how do I file my first patent? How do trademarks work? Any of these other things. And so the more you can put together content around an exact problem, right? This is, if anyone's followed YouTube channels or discovered new YouTube channels, I bet a lot of them you found because you were searching for a specific problem. I just bought a new record player, or my first record player last week. And so I was Googling over the weekend, okay, how do I tune and configure, and get the weight and balance just right on this new record player? And of course, YouTube is where I'm going for that, right? So people are searching for specific problems to solve. And if you can solve that through content, that's going to be a great hook to draw new people into your audience. So a couple more things on that. One, with email, you can drip that out over time. Like you said, instead of it being one 30-minute video, it could be 6 5-minute videos on each lesson over time. The thing that I love about that is it's training people to open your emails. Because now when they're saying, oh, I got an email from Nathan, they're not saying, oh, it's probably pitching me on becoming a client. Okay, whatever. They're going, oh, his last email was so good. I learned this thing. Let me dive in and I'm going to get a higher open rate. I'm going to get higher engagement because they know that that's where the value is. The other thing is that you can work in these little calls to action. Maybe on the third email, it's like, hey, have you considered hiring a new firm? You can even do things like, here are 5 things to look for when hiring an accounting firm. And when someone jumps off, right? So we watched the video on a tax strategy, right? And then at the end of the video is, hey, here's 5 things to look for. And then click off to that article. And at the end of that, I read through it. And maybe the article is a little bit tailored to like what I believe you should hire an accounting firm, which ties into hiring my firm because I built my firm around the principles that I believe you should use. And so you end up with not only great content that people are loving and really engaged with, but then you can have these really nice segues into a call to action. And the final thing is when someone gets on that call of like, okay, let's do the exploratory sales call, their questions, their mindset is already shaped around how you've built your business because you're the one that trained them on what they should be looking for, what they should be hiring, because you're the expert who put out that content. And so it basically makes, this flywheel, this snowball that is bringing everything from, a cold lead all the way through into someone who is very eager to talk to you and become your client.
It's so insightful the way you just laid that out, and it prompted me to think of something I hadn't thought of quite this way. So we'll do a quick answer on this one, and then I'll ask you how people can learn about ConvertKit. But the nuance that I just heard from you, and I hadn't thought of it this way, is lots of professionals are good about working with their marketing department to send out what you call the broadcast. Hey, we're going to have a webinar, or here are the things you need to know about the PPP loan forgiveness. That's the kind of thing people are sending out now as we record. But professionals aren't as good about developing these sequences that are about training and solving a specific issue in the example you just gave. And I think that's
Right.
where a tremendous amount of power is. So, and I don't actually know of any high-end consultants that are doing that or professionals. So just give a quick sort of put a bow around that idea of the value of effectively developing training that's dripped out over time, but that's automated and sequenced in a product like ConvertKit.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple ideas that we've talked about and sort of bringing them all together. The first one is if you're the one that's teaching, that builds your reputation. That means that people are going to trust you more. The hard thing is that's super time consuming. And so you're going to end up on this treadmill of, oh, I have to put out content every day, every week. And that's where this automation comes in, is that you can focus on quality over quantity because you know that every new person coming into your world is going to get these 5 emails. It's going to get this training on this one thing. And a lot of people think that, if I give away too much for free, that people won't hire me. And really the opposite is true. Like the more I learn, the more I go, oh, wow, this is really complicated. And I feel like I'm way more of an expert than I was an hour ago or a few weeks ago in the email sequence. And now I know that instead of doing it myself, I need to hire a professional, or there are all these missteps and things like that. So all of this it's a system that's going to work for you, that takes you, someone from coming into your orbit as a professional all the way through into becoming a client. And I can't stress enough how important it is for this to be a system and a flywheel rather than this one-off effort where you're like, okay, I got to take a break from what I'm doing and go promote my firm or grow my audience, each week. Like, that's hard to remember to do. And so instead you have this, just working for you.
Nathan, I love it. You just came to mind. So many professionals we know help their clients through continuing education initiatives. They call it CLE credits or whatever. And they typically tell us they'll spend 20, 40, 60, 80 hours developing this bespoke training just for one client, maybe 20 people in the room. They do it once and that's done. Gosh, if we're going to put that time and effort into figuring out some kind of really technical educational problem or solution we're going to deliver live, why don't we just take the content, we've already built it, and automate it and create an email sequence that can go out and help hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands and draw interest to us. And then, like you said, the person that's teaching is probably going to win the work. So why not automate it? So I love it. We use this exact.
Something else that I want to go in on is look at the last 10 problems that you solved for clients. What were they? Go through the list and say, okay, for Joe, I taught him how to do this. For Sarah, we handled this other thing. List that out. And that's basically what your content is. Exactly what you're saying of, this work that you did one off, go change 10, 20% of it. Names were changed to protect the innocent kind of thing, and turn it into a more general lesson. And that's the sort of thing that people are going to really engage. And the important thing is, if you've been serving the clients, you've already been doing half or 2/3 of the work required to create one of these assets that's going to work for you long-term.
Man, I love it. And like you said in a prior episode, you do it once and it works for you forever. I'm thinking back when we converted to ConvertKit last spring from another provider, and we love ConvertKit. And then we started building these training-based sequences. One's at bdhabits.com, bdhabitsforteam.com, winning-more.com, bdcampaigns.com, all these different ways of people getting value. Nathan, we've had thousands of people go through these, and my heart sings, I'll get an email from somebody I've never met before. Like at bdhabits.com, this happened a couple of days ago. Somebody emails me, I've never met them at all, and they talk about how that course changed their life. Like, that's cool. That's just, that brings an emotional aspect to it as well, in addition to all these efficiency kind of aspects that we talked about. So close us with this. People are going to want to know more about ConvertKit. Where do they go?
Yeah, they should go to convertkit.com. I've also, following my own advice, blogged about the entire process of growing ConvertKit from 0 to 25 million a year in revenue at nathanbarry.com. So if you want to subscribe to my newsletter or follow along, there's hundreds of blog posts over the last 8 years that will take you all the way through it.
It feels like a great time to mention nathanbarry.com in the answer about deepening relationships, don't you think? Everybody,
Yes,
if you didn't catch that, it's nathanbarry.com. That's nathanbarry.com. All right, everybody. If you didn't catch the couple videos before this, make sure you nail them. We're going to get one more question for Nathan in the next episode. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to ask him how to hack your own habits to keep doing these kind of things that we're talking about. So make sure you don't miss the next episode.